Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sarah. I will be with you through today's session on Inspiration Platform. Our next session looks how local stories grow across borders and speak to global audience. I'm pleased to welcome the co-founder and partner of Kinetic. Please join me welcoming Mr. Douglas Scott.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's very nice to be here, and my first time in Saudi Arabia. It's been very welcoming, and I'm very excited to share with you our view of from the kingdom to the world. So a little bit about myself. I started out my career at Ogilvy & Mather, a global media agency based in New York with offices worldwide, working very closely with global brands. From there, I went on to Endeavor. Endeavor is a entertainment and marketing company. You may be familiar with Ari Emanuel and the entertainment and music position of the agency, working very closely with UFC, amongst other sports and brands. Currently, at a company called Unknown. Unknown is a production company working very closely with Fortune 50 companies. Culture Group, a Singapore-based agency, as well as Network and Kinetic Ventures. Some of the brands that I've worked with over the years, creating branded entertainment and original content, the likes of AB InBev, Amazon, the NBA, Rolex with their Academy Awards partnership over the past 7 years, which extends another 20, and many other networks as you see here. A little bit on the awards side of things, needless to say, with the advertising and the content we've created, really have had a global footprint with all of that content. And most recently, working very closely with Fordham University and several other U.S. universities, the likes of NYU, Syracuse, and USC, really elevating what's happening out there in the media landscape. So right now we're living in a history and time in the media space like no other. There's a true convergence taking place with technology, really exciting time as we see data driving the content. And really the state of global media here is that we're moving into a projected market of $3.5 trillion. It's really defined not so much on the content that is produced, but more so on the audiences that are engaged. And we're seeing a disintermediation take place between distributor and creator. And that really creates an opportunity for local content. Some of the trends that we are currently tracking, creator-led media companies. If you look at somebody like a Mr. Beast, he's valued right now at over $400 million. Some believe into the billions in terms of his overall asset. Omni-channel distribution. Distribution is no longer about traditional distribution on the broadcast side, but really about creating content for all platforms. Data-driven storytelling is an area that I am very excited about, and that we believe that data drives creative. AI-enabled production, the idea that, again, the machine is able to assist in the workflows, creating greater efficiency, and then IP really being this new currency, this new value creation and the ownership of IP. This framework here that you see, we call the 6 C's. The first of which really leads with culture. Culture is everything. And culture is a two-sided coin. We really look at local culture and then global pop culture. This idea that we call glocal that I'll get more into today in this conversation. But culture informs content. Content comes in multiple formats. It's live, right? It's video, it's audio, podcasting. Content creates communities of like-minded individuals. Those communities are our fans. Those communities have conversations through social channels, in person, and those conversations with the rise of social influencers influence commerce. Commerce is really the only KPI that matters to a brand, right? And all of this is happening in context. Context is the moment. We live in moments. Moment marketing is very key to what takes place as we scroll through our screens in that moment. And this framework is something that I've used over the years with the IBMs, with the American Expresses, because what we want to do is we want to capture those moments and engage the audience through our devices. All of us right now, right, have the opportunity to be engaged through that device. I call that triggernomics. Triggernomics is the economic behavior associated with a physical or digital stimulus that drives action, I heart it, reaction, where I respond to it, or ultimately a transaction. And if you understand the velocity at which I can act with my phone and engage with the environment around me, right, we can now begin to engage the consumer in a much more rapid response. So this new content reality is really turning local stories into global assets. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Digital platforms erase the borders, but not the cultural relevance. We are a borderless world today. 8 billion people on the planet with digital devices accessible at any time, anywhere. Global audiences don't want generic content, they want authentic stories. And authenticity is what wins. There is too much homogenized culture out there. When I arrived, I visited the mall across the way. I walked through and Starbucks looked like a Starbucks in New York City, where I'm from, or anywhere else in the world, any airport, right? And what we want is we want local culture. We want to feel the flavor of where we are. The future really belongs to countries that can export culture, not just content. How do we take that culture and unlock it? And I think that that is one of the biggest opportunities, observing what's happening right now in media in Saudi Arabia, is capturing that local content. So really, as you see, local content is no longer only a national responsibility, it's a global economic opportunity. How do we export our culture? The core question, in my view, is what makes content exportable? It's a combination of this local identity with a universal human emotion and then global production standards. It's phenomenal to see the growth and acceleration of technology adoption here in the country. But how we tap into that universal human emotion really is what's going to enable, I believe, Saudi Arabia to export content on a global scale. And that's really done through a number of, if you will, content standards. The first is story. There are 7 story structures in the world. And what we want to do is we want to tap into those stories and tell those stories on a global basis. There's conflict. Conflict is what drives drama. It's what drives story. There is structure. And what we want is we want familiar formats that consumers, that audiences can engage with. There is character, protagonists and antagonists. We can't lose sight of that in terms of our storytelling. And keep in mind the idea of storytelling. Storytelling is really 2 words. Story is a constant. We tell those and we'll continue to tell those through new medium. Telling is the variable. What we once told around a campfire and then told in a book, we then moved to radio and audio, we then moved to video, silent films, as I saw the gentleman from Disney speaking about the Lumiere brothers, okay, moving into the evolution of new technology, and now it's VR, it's AR, augmented reality. Production, the level of production, I don't believe is about just good enough. In a TikTok generation, young people believe content is good enough. But realistically, we have to maintain those standards from a production standpoint. And then lastly, consistency. We want consistency in our content. We want to build franchises and we want to unlock that as IP. My view coming here to speak with all of you is that Saudi history, heritage, sports, youth culture, and modern transformation are rich with globally resonant narratives. It's incredible to me, right, the population here in Saudi Arabia and the youth and how that is embracing technology today. So how does all this align with Vision 2030? First, it shapes how the kingdom is seen through its own creative voice. Every country has a voice. And what's happening right now is this voice is emerging, right, under 2030. It enables the youth to participate in global culture while preserving national identity. Young people want to be involved in sport. They want to be involved in media. They want to be involved in the arts. And content allows us to unlock that. It builds a full value chain from development through distribution. It's very difficult in the world today to have a full holistic view on content. And the infrastructure that's being built here, the Studio in Alula and other parts of the country are enabling that. The network is enabling that. Your distribution channels and your educational infrastructure is enabling that. Having had the opportunity to meet with some university representatives from Jeddah while I arrived, right, I'm learning more about what is taking place within the infrastructure, and that infrastructure is critical to creating an export in entertainment. How do we link film and series to tourism, right? That's the soft economy, to culture and national events. In 2034, you will have the World Cup here. The preparation to that World Cup, the biggest global event in the world in sport, right, is a tremendous opportunity, and to be looking towards that in just 8 years, making sure that that infrastructure can support that, needs to be an ambition. Too many times you have dilution of culture. We dilute the culture in order to believe that it will then translate globally. I argue that we should not dilute culture. Culture needs to be pure. You need to unlock that and share that so there is an understanding of what is coming from. And I will talk about that in a second with a case study. Respect traditions while framing them in universal emotion. Again, we all carry emotion. We laugh, we cry, we love. Okay? That emotion is common regardless of where we're from, the language that we speak, or our tradition. And that is something that we can all connect to. We must let audiences discover culture naturally through the character behavior. How do we connect with those characters and in an emotional level? The case that I'm going to share with you here is around K-culture, right? Korea has done a phenomenal job sharing its culture with the rest of the world. They've done it through K-pop music. They've done it through K-beauty. They've done it through K-dramas. And when you look at a product like Squid Game that has not only translated globally, but has now crossed the chasm into Mr. Beast with his Beast Games and a similar format, or if you look at Blackpink and the global phenomenon there, or even for that matter, what's happening right now with Netflix, with Demon Slayer, right? These properties translate anywhere in the world. They're IP that represents Korean culture in a way that only Korea could bring that out. And even more so, you're now seeing iterative aspects of that. We have a similar situation with manga and anime in Japan. So it's unlocking those traditional elements that are part of that culture and bringing them to the forefront through global media. Media adaptation strategies are critical. One story with many audiences. How do we adapt that content across different formats, whether they're short form series, right, or longer form features? How do we specify them to platform? Too many times, content creators will take the same content, place them on YouTube, and then put the same content on TikTok or on Facebook. All of those formats are different and require different cuts, different edits, different approaches to those medium, because the medium not only is carrying the message, but I would argue the flip side of that to Marshall McLuhan is the message is the medium. And what you have to understand is that that message needs to be delivered through that channel in the most appropriate way. Audience segmentation, very critical to understand one's audience. Who they are, what their age group is, where they are in the world, and how they're engaging with the platform and the format with the different language layers, whether it's a lower third or whether it's a dubbed over language. Global partnerships are critical, and what I would say is, in this part of the world, you're very fortunate to be having the studios and the sports leagues, the NBA and others, come into the country to collaborate. How do we take advantage of that and really elevate that, again, in that cross-cultural exchange? International film and content funds are ways to fuel that content and grow that base. Cross-cultural IP incubators. How do we take formats or for that matter, culture, and bring them to USC Film School, bring them to UCLA, bring them to NYU, allowing filmmakers to collaborate with you in such a way. Too many times, media companies act as gatekeepers rather than as gateways. And what we have now is OTT platforms that provide scale, over-the-top distribution, enabling consumers to get content anywhere and anytime. We have social platforms that allow for discovery, for short-form discovery. We have loyalty on owned platforms, and then lastly, live. And live is critical because it allows the consumer to engage with the brand directly. So the future of Saudi media is not in operating studios alone, but in building a connected ecosystem that creates, distributes, monetizes, and owns its stories globally, right? Again, we don't want iterative content, we want original content. We want ownership of IP. The culture is too rich to be borrowing equity from other places in the world. We want to bring the world the content that is original from Saudi Arabia. So this idea of going global, right? Global is something that many countries try to do, but what they do is they miss the local aspect of the global distribution. I believe that Vision 2030 is not only infrastructure, it's part of the narrative. If you look at Neom, Qiddiya, the line, right? These are architectural wonders of the future world. They will set the tone for where we go with 8 billion people on the planet, and what we want to do is we want to unlock that, right? We want to make sure that there's consistent national storytelling voice. Every country has a brand. That brand gets represented during the Olympics. That brand gets represented during World Cup. That brand gets represented during World Fairs, right? How do we have that brand come to the surface and ensure that our content embodies that? Recognizable themes and aesthetics. There are themes that are part of your heritage. We want to bring that forward. The richness, right, is an opportunity to help the world understand the position of Saudi Arabia and how that is contextual to me as an audience and as a consumer. We want to develop talent pipelines. It's tremendous being here at this event, seeing the young people working this event, the cameras, the production, the behind the scenes. And the more that you train that workforce, the more that you empower that workforce, right, the more you accelerate that. We saw that going all the way back to the early days of Hollywood and the production of film there, and then the evolution with Silicon Valley and young entrepreneurs building the future technology that we have today that enables us to do what we do, right? And that same opportunity sits in this country right now. So what is the overall economic impact of exportable content? Well, first, job creation, tourism influence, bringing more people here to produce on site. Right? There are a lot of tax incentives and a lot of opportunities in the world to be producing in foreign countries, but there are very few places in the world that offer the infrastructure, right, and the forward thinking right now that Saudi Arabia is offering. The cultural diplomacy. Content creates diplomacy. Content creates cultural exchange. And we want to unlock that, and most importantly, we want to own that IP, that intellectual property. So what's the Saudi opportunity? The moment to the momentum. How do we take this moment of now, of sport, of film, of music, and how do we create momentum moving into a very rich set of years ahead of you? You have stories that the world has not yet seen, audiences ready to listen and capital to invest. All of this combined really creates a vision for the future. So the next global cultural engine is the future of story making. 1911, Charlie Chaplin of Hollywood. We moved from silent film to the talkies, from the talkies and black and white to color, from stereo sound to THX sound. We've now moved into a world in America with the Sphere in Las Vegas. And the Sphere is a very interesting representation because what they did to really unlock that outside of the concerts is they brought back The Wizard of Oz, a black and white film that was put into color using Technicolor, a technology of its time, against a Sphere that is like no other venue in the world, that is reinventing the consumer experience. Bollywood of 1913, K-culture of 1992, and what I term to be Robbywood, okay, 2018, and the growth of the film industry here in Saudi Arabia. So I believe that Saudi content is not meant to fit into the world, but it's produced really to help shape it. And that is what I will leave you with today, is this idea that production, distribution, and most importantly, the stories of Saudi Arabia need to be brought to the world to shape the world in the future that we're all envisioning as we grow together, okay? And as you, with the infrastructure that you're building, really have that opportunity to share that with the rest of the world. And with that, I say thank you very much. Thank you for your time.